Today's video is brought to you by my good friends over at Vite Ramen. If you've been looking for a healthier alternative to fast food that's just as delicious and convenient, consider checking out Vite Ramen. Vite Ramen is significantly different than the other ramen you see in the stores. Almost all of the options have significantly lower sodium, the flavors, which are constantly being improved, are just great, and is a small American business which pays its employees a living wage. All of that, though, let's be honest, is not nearly as interesting as important as the fact that I have my own flavor, which was custom designed and tested by me, being sold through Vite Ramen. It's called Massaman Curry. We worked on this for a long time, and in my opinion, it's the best flavor that they offer. If you've tried it, let me know down below, or just if you've tried Vite Ramen generally. The problem is it sells out extremely quickly. The new Vite Ramen Go Massaman Curry will probably be almost gone by the time this video goes live, but next Monday, the full second wave is releasing, although the first one went very, very quickly as well. Anyway, follow the link in the description, use code ECKHART so get 10% off your order and free shipping of the intro pack within the continental USA, plus some free surprises. All right, roll the intro. Alright, so over the past few weeks, we've been taking a closer look at the Clone Wars, one of the most interesting and expansive, but yet somehow still undercovered aspects of Star Wars lore. A couple of days ago, we talked about how the CIS managed to create massive fleets without the rest of the galaxy noticing. Earlier in the past couple of months, we've talked about the brutality of the Outer Rim sieges and the period immediately after the Clone Wars. In today's video, we'll be looking at aspects of the Clone Wars which were incredibly important, but aren't fully shown in the media. These are almost like the little wars that were happening behind the scenes. The first illustration of this is one that I have alluded to on the channel before. That is the presence of non-clones and non-droid forces within the militaries of the Confederacy of Independent Systems and the Republic. Now, admittedly, this is something we do see occasionally in the Clone Wars. For example, Gungans and Mon Calamari are seen fighting for the Republic, the Umbarans are on the side of the Confederacy, even really Utapau in Revenge of the Sith is a good illustration of this, but what the Clone Wars TV show especially doesn't do a good job of showing is that much of the fighting was done by individual systems, which were either resisting attacks by other forces or even leaving their system to fight aggressively for their faction. This was true especially early on in the war in the case of the Separatists, where systems were leaving en masse and trying to resist the Republic. Really, in the Clone Wars, we usually see it the other way, when Ryloth, for example, is being blockaded. But really, a lot was being done here by local forces, and many of these battles wouldn't have had a clone nor a battle droid on either side. Here's what the Essential Guide to Warfare says at the beginning of Chapter 8. In the first few months of the war, the Separatists pursued a defensive strategy, seeking to blunt Republic drives into their patchwork territory. In these initial campaigns, the Separatist military forces worked together poorly at best. Both sides faced a similar challenge: build up the strength of their centralized militaries while coordinating the efforts of local forces. The Republic specifically started to nationalize what were known as Planetary Security Forces, or PSFs. So as the Clone War went on, what had been 100,000 diverse armies made up of the same number of planets and species were nationalized and saw some level of Republic control and direction. The Essential Guide to Warfare also suggests that the Separatists were pretty much always on the back foot, never controlling large swaths of territory, with their main offensive action being aimed at disrupting Republic supply lines and communication, and where possible, testing the defensive arrangement of the Republic's military. As we discussed in our Outer Rim Sieges video, they were trying to push the Republic into a trap where either the CIS would be able to hold out and continue to pump out droid forces indefinitely, or the Republic would be forced to make an offensive move, leaving their planets undefended. Then the CIS could strike back. Clearly, this wasn't a war as a lot of people imagine it, where there's a red side and a blue side slowly pushing on each other and territory is being pulled one way or another. Obviously, territorial shifts did happen, especially early on in the Clone Wars, but a significant aspect of combat was also what was happening before the battle even began. Both the Republic and the CIS had very unique forces, with the Republic sporting the largest clone army in history, and the CIS the largest droid army. Both of these sides were actually vulnerable to their own sort of corruption or attack. back. When it came to the CIS, the Republic was dealing with a steady stream of new advanced battle droids and vehicles. However, they responded with not only open attacks on manufacturing facilities or research stations, but also secret forms of sabotage. And if you think about it, destroying a factory is obviously a strike against the Confederacy, but if you can set it so that factory outputs droids with a serious mechanical error, in the long run, the damage, if not remediated, can actually be even worse. This is what the Essential Guide to Warfare says on that topic. Viruses could be repaired if discovered, but slicers had other ways of doing damage. One popular technique was to alter the code directing the Separatist automated foundries and factories in small but devastating ways. Parts were made slightly too small or too large, targeting sensors were slightly miscalibrated, extra cycles were introduced into communication subroutines, and schematics were altered so that parts seized up, wore out, or burned up. Making matters worse in this would have been the fact that many of the CIS's creations were pumped out en masse and with as few parts as possible. We talked about how this was true for the Recusant, but also the B-1 battle droid. These were cognitively specialized for particular roles, but were also very cheap and prone not only to errors in construction with or without sabotage, but simply breakdowns in programming, especially after the CIS moved away from the droid control ship mode of control. On the other hand, when it comes to clones, there are obviously some unique vulnerabilities there. They have the same genetic code, the same blood type, everything. Now, on the one hand, that means that they're easier to treat, but on the other hand, that means that they were particularly susceptible to bioweapons. That's something we don't see very often in the Clone Wars, but it's definitely a vulnerability. Here's another quote from the Essential Guide to Warfare. Their shared blueprint made them vulnerable to the same illnesses and gave Separatist researchers the ability to tailor viruses specifically for clones. The Kaminoan traitor Kuma Nai released such a nanovirus on Kamino, killing the cloner Sain Ta, but died before she was able to bring it to her Separatist paymasters. Later strains were spread by Uktup Tara droids. Veterans of battles such as Mikastra 3 and Uba 4 would never forget the sight of Uktup Taras picking their way through the rubble, shrouded in veils of deadly acidic vapor that ate through body gloves in minutes and left clone troopers convulsing and dying. Elsewhere, Separatist saboteurs volunteered to be infected and then infiltrated clone staging area and recovery wards. That chapter later goes on to talk about how bioweapons, of course, were effective not only against clones, but really all organics, which was a useful option for a faction that often employed droids on the battlefield. Obviously, though, bioweapons had the side effect, or sometimes deliberate effect, of terrorizing civilian populations. The CIS leadership was divided over whether terrorism was a strategy which should be employed, with Count Dooku and others frequently arguing against it, while Grievous believed that terrorism was essentially the essence of war. Well, that's all I've got for you today. A little bit of a look into aspects of the Clone Wars that you might not have realized were the way they were, and how the average battle in the Clone Wars was maybe a little bit different than what's shown in the TV show. But guys, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe. Check out my Vite Ramen link down in the description. Again, if you've tried Massaman curry, please let me know. I'm a huge fan of the flavor, and I hope you guys are too. But until next time, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.